everybody. Today is the 49th episode of Let's Do Lunch, and it's Thursday. So today is our Rights Tech Roundtable, which is led by our friend and colleague Paul Sweeting, which I'll invite onto the show in just a moment. First off, I mentioned this yesterday, and I wanted to bring it up again here. Tomorrow's show is going to be a little different than some of the ones we've done in the past. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on race at work in the entertainment industry. We have Sharon Dargan, who is SVP at Live Nation. She also heads the Black Employee Resource Group at Live Nation, and she'll be joined by talent manager Jonathan Azu, who runs Culture Collective. And able to do it, we're actually going to have everybody on video and invite folks to come on to the show to participate in and give comments and ask questions. So that'll be tomorrow at noon, and we'll be sending out more details. All right, Paul, who do you have on the show today?
Thanks, Ned. We have with us, she'll be joining us in a minute. There she is, Nadira Azermai, who is the founder, CEO of ScriptBook, which is a fascinating company. I'm very excited to be chatting with her. Before we get to that, I wanted to just note a few interesting headlines from the world of rights tech in the past week. A company called International Literary Properties, which was formed about a year ago. It's based in London, I believe. Acquired the literary estates of 12 writers this week, including some rather prominent writers: Evelyn Waugh, author of Brideshead Revisited, and many other notable novels. Also Robert Bolt, who wrote the screenplays for Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia, and a number of other big films. And what I found interesting about that is that this is a company that was formed specifically for investing in and then managing literary estates, which struck me as having a lot of echoes with a trend we've been watching and talking about here, involving music publishing catalogs, where people are starting to look at music publishing catalogs as essentially an investment vehicle, a financial asset. And there's seems to be some interest building in the literary world for a similar sort of approach. So I'm going to be very interested to see how that develops and see if we can't get the international literary property folks to join us on a future webinar. Another interesting headline past week, which is directly relevant to what what Nadira and I will be talking about, is that the Hollywood industry essentially submitted its plans to the governors of California and New York this week to reopen production with some guidelines for coping with the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the things that is part of that, and is a greater reliance on technology for various kinds of remote and virtual production, often incorporating technology developed in the game industry, including artificial intelligence technology, which bears directly on, or at least runs parallel with what Nadira and I will be talking about, which is the use of artificial intelligence to analyze scripts, movie scripts, before and as an aid to guiding decisions about whether or not to produce the film or finance the film. And It's a relatively new application of AI technology, certainly new to me. Let me just tell you a little bit about Nadira. She, as I mentioned, is the founder and CEO of ScriptBook, based in Antwerp. And Nadira actually came up with the idea. It grew out of her master's thesis that she was working on, which was focused on, well, I assume you finished the thesis or not, I don't know. But it was focused on using AI to quantify story parameters, literary story parameters into a predictive model. Apparently she got so excited about that project that she detoured from her plans to pursue the PhD and decided to start the company that's now known as ScriptBook. Thanks very much for joining us. It's great to have you here, Nadira.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
I know we call this series Let's Do Lunch. In Antwerp, it's actually past dinner time. Yep. I thank you for taking a chunk out of your evening. So that was a little bit about the origins of ScriptBook. Tell us a little bit more about what your goal was in starting the company.
Sure. The company was founded in 2015, and the goal was very simple. We wanted to build an AI-driven script analysis and content validation platform. AI was at that time being used in every industry. You had AI being used in fintech and health tech, pretty much any industry, but the entertainment industry was still following the ancient methodology that everybody knows, the traditional approach. So there was no decision support, there was no technology. And for us, it seemed quite obvious that this would be a tool that people would use. We thought, okay, this is the holy grail of Hollywood. Back then I was quite naive, but I thought this is the holy grail. So we developed the system because what the system really did back then was take a script and analyze it, break it down and analyze it on different levels. So basically a full analysis took about 6 to 7 minutes, and the system would come up with a number of sophisticated outputs. It would literally give you information about the script DNA. It would give you information about the storyline characters, about the demographics, audience satisfaction, financial forecast, etc. So that was the original goal of ScriptBook.
Okay, so what happened then?
Pivot, no, not pivot, but we stayed with the original goal. But the thing is, when you develop new technology, especially with this industry, I'll call it Hollywood, they're very, well, they don't necessarily adopt innovation because of the traditional approach. So when we started out, we actually thought, okay, we need to validate this technology as soon as possible. And we embarked very early on validation trajectories with small companies initially, the early adopters, as they call them. So they tested they became our trial customers. They tested the system, were happy with it. They shared with us data, and we got a lot of feedback from those early adopters. That was part one, and basically when we finished up that, and we were happy because those early adopters became also the very first clients. And early adopters tend to be, let's say film funds, film finance companies, but also film distributors, not the production companies yet or the studios. That was part one. And then when you validate your technology, you need more validation, because for us, we thought, okay, this is the time to reach out to studios. We need to reach out to studios and see whether they would use our technology. So we reached out to studios, and it was, I have to say, we didn't have any difficulty in getting into the studio and try to pitch the project and get started with validation. But the thing is, the validation within a studio takes a very long time. if you count, it takes anything from 18 to 24 months to finish up a proof of concept with the studio. If you count, let's say, the whole auditing process, the legal, you know, the actual POC, the results afterwards. Now, one thing was that our system, we knew our system would outperform any company. So it outperformed humans with the
Whoa. Wait, hold on there a second. What do you mean it outperformed humans? It outperformed humans how exactly? What?
Well, basically, for us, metrics were, would our system be more accurate in predicting, for example, commercial success? Would our system be more accurate in greenlighting projects that actually turn out to be, you know, appealing to audiences? Would our system be more accurate in detecting, you know, value-destructing titles, films that don't do well? So these are all the questions that we wanted to answer within a validation trajectory. And the results were very, very good. So basically, our technology very early on was able to spot scripts that had potential, was able to spot films that had a commercial viability or would do very, very well commercially. And when we compared whatever we selected, you know, the green lights versus the red lights, when we compared that with the actual data from the studio or from the company, then we had far more higher accuracy rates. So this is what I mean with outperforming humans.
So what are you actually analyzing, or what does your algorithm actually analyze? Can you show us an example of how you would go about analyzing a script? You know, what parameters are you looking at?
I can definitely show you. I mean, I can show you a demo, show you a sample of a script analysis, for example.
Yeah.
Let me just share my screen. All right, okay. Let me know if you can see my screen, Paul.
No, not yet. No.
Let's try again.
Oh.
Oh, I get host disabled participant screen sharing. Hold on, I think that's the issue with screen sharing, I think.
Can you, Laura, can you make her a co-host so that she's able to share her screen?
All right, I think it's going to work. Right.
There we go.
Perfect. All right. I'll go to our marketplace, and I'll actually show you scripts or analysis of scripts on our marketplace. Now, this is an open marketplace where everybody, I mean, writers can upload their scripts. And I specifically want to show one script because it's from an unknown writer, but had actually a very good analysis by our system. It's called 60 Feet Under. There you go. So what I want, so basically, if you would use our software.
Hold on 1 second. So this is a script from a writer whose name isn't, I guess, so the writer uploaded this to your platform.
Exactly. So we have a script marketplace where writers are allowed to upload their materials. So basically, this is a script that was uploaded by a writer to our marketplace. And the analysis of we require a PDF version of the script in order to do the analysis. It takes, I would say, about 6 to 8 minutes for a full analysis of a script. And what you would get is actually this. As you can see here, you see the menu. You would get metrics under script DNA, metrics under audience, and also the financial forecasts. So for example, in this case, 60 Feet Under, this was analyzed for one of the writers that uploaded his scripts on the platform. You can see we start out with predicting things as genre. We also predict things as the MPA rating. Now, I'll give a few explanation with MPA rating. Basically, what our team did, we developed classifiers that actually detect violence, alcohol, nudity, you name it. And based on that, the algorithm, as you can see, will classify a script as R-rated or PG-13. It will assign a probability to a script. We also, under Script DNA, show you similar movies, not just similar movies by one certain topic. We show you similar movies that will draw, for example, a similar target audience right here. We also show similar movies by topics or themes. We will show you similar movies by genre, by audience reach, audience and critics rating, so that you have an idea about the project that you are reading or analyzing. I'm not going to show everything, but for example, I'll show you the likability. Now, as you can see, the system detects completely automated protagonist, antagonist, and it will assign likability scores to character in your script. And how we did that is the following. So basically, what we trained, actually we trained the system. The system learned to understand language. And by using natural language processing, and this is called NLP, it's a subfield of AI. Basically, it allows computers to understand language syntactically and semantically. The next step is actually having, kind of defining what is it that you would like to predict. Let's say you want to predict box office, then you will need huge amounts of box office data. Or in this case, we want to predict the lead protagonist in a certain script. So for this case, we require labels. So basically annotations done by humans. So we labeled, for example, to detect the protagonist, we labeled thousands and thousands of scripts. You know, each script got a label, who is the lead protagonist. And then this information is actually being inputted in machine learning algorithms, you know, and machine learning algorithms will detect patterns, low-level and high-level patterns. And that's which again will show you whatever you want to predict. So it's really, you can either use data to spot patterns, but some outputs, as likability, for example, really requires labels. And this is, for example, the case with likability. The same thing with, for example, detecting emotions in characters with the emotion summary. Now, this is, again, a feature that we manually labeled. Gender equality, same thing. We detect whether there is gender bias in a script. As you can see, this is actually a good script for gender bias because it passes gender equality. Shows you also which scenes pass, how are the interactions between gender. And then towards the audience, we predict the target audience split, also the age groups, audience satisfaction metrics, such as, you know, everybody knows IMDb rating, Rotten Tomatoes, etc. We also position the project among other films so that you have an idea whether, for example, this movie, is it this film project rather, 60 Feet Under, does it fall, will it reach you know, a wide audience, or is it more catered towards niche audiences? And then of course the financial forecasts, which are also important. We predict production budgets in this case. As you can see, 13 million. And also US box office. Now I know with the whole Corona thing, people say, oh yeah, box office is not important anymore, but this is a very good proxy. Not just, it's a good proxy whether a certain project is commercially viable or not, whether it comes out on VOD or in theaters. But this is, for example, one of the best scoring scripts on our marketplace. It has actually a very high box office prediction. Also, I'll just, you know, speed up. For example, you want to know, is this a project that will have a receptive audience around the world? So we show you probabilities for each part of the world and whether it's whether it will have an audience, yes or no. And again, it's not just US box office. We do this for all countries in Europe and outside Europe. As you can see, we predict box office by country, the international box office as well. So, and one thing that's also important before I end with this analysis. We don't have just one predictive model. We have about 30 predictive models. So when people upload their script, or when a company uploads its script, you know, of course you only have a script, so we will use our script model. But along the line, you know, when you have, for example, a cast attached, or you have a production company attached, all of this information is important. So this will be added again, and we will use a different predictive model. So it's important to know that it's not, the number is not, you know, the number is alive. It will move along with where you are in the chain of your project. And this is how a script analysis looks like.